Hey, everybody. We are live today. We have a special guest, community activist Keith O. Williams, the political guru, one of the political gurus in Birmingham, Alabama. And today he is coming to discuss the parties and specifically the Democratic Party. So looking forward to this conversation and see how far we're going. So Keith Williams, and ladies and thank you also, not necessarily political, across the social media platform. Keith Williams, it's all yours, my brother.
And pleasant good afternoon to everyone. And I am here to talk about the state of the Alabama Democratic Party. And before I get started, I want to throw some disclaimers at you here, okay? Because I don't want anyone, comment on me with, with lies and misinformation and all that jive. I don't fall for that. Okay. So basically, my first disclaimer is that what I'm about to tell you is based on my opinion and um, eyewitness accounts. Okay. Because I believe that you cannot really tell a story unless you're actually there. Also, too, constructive criticism or questions, are welcome. But please don't come over here. Please don't come over here with this nonchalant, superficial, judgmental attitude. I'm gonna call you out if you do. Okay. Now that we got that out of the way, um, let me start by saying the reason why I want to talk about the state of the Alabama Democratic Party is because a lot of Alabama Democrats went to Georgia to campaign for incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock. Now, there's nothing wrong with that person, but my problem is with that is that why have not the same energy was given to Alabama Democrats that was running in Alabama during the midterm election? You guys did hardly absolutely nothing for these candidates, but yet y'all took buses, y'all had resources and all of those things, and y'all went to Georgia to campaign for a candidate that does not live in Alabama. Now that is where I have a problem, at because y'all are giving energy to a campaign in another state, and y'all not doing anything for the candidates who are living in Alabama who ran for office. You had the William Boyd who ran for senator. He is an excellent candidate. You had some great candidates that were running for the Alabama State Senate and Alabama House of Representatives. You folks did not give them the time of day, but y'all flock y'all behinds over in Georgia to campaign for an incumbent senator in Georgia. Now that's where I have a problem with. And I'm really disappointed, very disappointed that y'all did not put in the energy for Alabama Democratic candidates, but y'all flock over to Georgia to help out a candidate in Georgia. That's where my problem is. Alabama Democrats have been doing this for years. They have been doing this, for years. And it's time that I call it out for what it is. Second of all, I want to point out that there are a lot of internal issues with the Alabama Democratic Party. This is not just starting. This has been going on for a very long time. Now, I know that I have just returned to Birmingham in 2016. From what I have observed and what I have read in the news is quite disturbing. There are a lot of internal problems that are going on with the Alabama Democratic Party, and it all stems from one person. His name is Joe Reed, chairperson of the Alabama Democratic Party. That is where all the headache is the nucleus of all of the headaches that's been going on with the Alabama Democratic Party, it's with him. Now I know a lot of y'all are gonna jump on my back about him. Let me stop you right there and say that I read the history about him. And I know that he has done a lot of good for the Alabama Democratic Party in the past. But now things have really gotten out of hand in the later years of, this party. Well, what do you mean? First of all, let me take you back to 2018 during the first meeting of the Alabama State Democratic Executive Committee in 2018 when they met in Montgomery. There was an election that took place to where they elected, their leadership. I'm sure you know who, what those positions are. So what happened is that once again, you had the influence and interference of Joe Reed trying to extend his power within the Alabama Democratic Party. And the DNC got a hold of what happened, and after their investigation, they determined that the election was illegitimate, and they had to start all over again. They also discovered that their bylaws was outdated and needed to be redone. Well, how do you know this, Keith? Because I was there. I've seen the whole thing unfold for myself. So it's not everything I'm telling you is based on eyewitness accounts. I was there. I saw what happened. I saw the power struggles that took place. I saw the scheming and scamming that took place when selecting at-large members of the SDC. I saw it all. And it was reported to the Democratic National Committee. And they came down here to Montgomery or whatever to do an investigation. And they determined that the election was illegitimate and their bylaws was outdated. So they had to basically start over. And under their supervision, the Alabama Democratic Party redesign or revamp their bylaws, and they had to do a new election. So that's how Chris England and Patricia Todd was elected. That's how they was elected, because they had to, redo the election. From that point on, it's been lawsuits after lawsuits after lawsuits perpetrated by Joe Reed and his supporters who wanted to put the original leadership back into power. When Nancy Worley, she died, I think it was last year or year before last or something like that. It's been recently. So she recently died. So that storyline pretty much died with it. And so now you had Chris England and Patricia Todd as head of the Alabama Democratic Party. Now, mind for you though, the Alabama Democratic Party and the Alabama Democratic Conference are two different entities. They are two separate entities. The ADC is not the Alabama Democratic Party. They do not speak for the Alabama Democratic Party. Just want y'all to know that again, the Alabama Democratic Conference is not the state Democratic Party. They are two different entities. But Reed is trying for years to be the person for the Alabama Democratic Party. Well, in August of this year, unfortunately, that has happened. I mean, whatever maneuvering or, what he has done, he was able to gain control of the party. Now, we don't know what happened to the money, that the Alabama Democratic Party had. We don't know what happened to the resources, that they had. The party headquarters had been shut down. So when you tried to call them, you basically calling Joe Reed's office. Now, the person that they elected was Randall Kelly. He is a minister out of Huntsville, Alabama. if I'm not mistaken. That's where he's at. But he was handpicked by Reed to be head of the party. And just like 4 years ago, the Alabama Democratic Party has done absolutely nothing to support these candidates that are running for office. It's like we're living in 2018 all over again, where you had a good slate of candidates, but they was not getting any help from the party. And now we're here in 2022, and the same thing happened. No support, no money, and no resources. So practically they are broke. They are broke. The headquarters have been shut down. We don't know what happened, to the money. They need to do an audit. The DNC need to step in. Something just does not smell right. So why am I bringing this up? Why am I bringing all this up? Because in a nutshell, the Alabama Democratic Party is on life support. I mean, face it, Lonnie, this it's about to go flatline. And we're sitting here campaigning for a candidate in another state. And we have not even begun to deal with the problems that the Alabama Democratic Party has in this state. That is where I have a problem with. Any questions, Lonnie?
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So that's pretty strong to say it's just Joe. And I don't know Joe. I've never met. I've heard.
It's not just him. He just like, it's not just him. He just like
Let me finish. I don't know him. I know his son. I met his son, the mayor of Montgomery, but I don't know him. So I can't say, what you're saying is true or not. I've heard things though. I can go by what I hear, but I like to speak to the people first. But no, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying per se. I'm just saying that I don't have a comment on him. Now, as far as the Democratic Party, I'm with you on the fact that they went to Warnock and didn't help Boyd. I was really disappointed. And then we had a governor, we had Boyd, we had I don't even think they really came out for Mark Petway, which was weird.
No, they did not.
Which was weird. I'm like, I don't know what they have against Mark Petway. Mark Sheriff, which is the first black sheriff of Birmingham. And that's important because it just happened to have the first black sheriff of Alabama in Birmingham, let's say that, or Jefferson County. To have that just a few years ago, that's important. And then you didn't come back out for the man. He can't, the sheriff office deliver warrants and they protect the county per se. They don't solve crime for real. I think in California, they may do a little bit more. The sheriffs are a little different in California, I'm thinking. But in Alabama, that's not what they do. It's the police, which we're struggling with here in Alabama. I've been saying for years now that the chief of police needs to be an elected official as well. So he won't be pigeonholed to whomever the mayor is. And I'm not talking about any specific mayor. I'm just saying that position need to be elected as well. That way, the people choose who is help supporting them, right? Now,
I agree with that.
Again, I'm with you. I didn't understand why they was going over there to Warnock, which I get it is bodies, is resources. When you had races here. So Keith, I'm with you. I agree with you. There's a lot of things that's going on politically right now. I just don't understand. I just don't get some of the things that they're doing. You know what I mean?
And I know a lot of people do not, agree with that statement that why are Alabama Democrats going to another state, to campaign for someone when we had candidates here in Alabama and they've done absolutely nothing. That's the problem, that I'm having. And if people, don't agree with me on that, well, that's on you. It just comes to show that we don't give a damn about the people that are running here. Let's just be real, because if it was, we would be pouring money in for these candidates. We would be supporting, we would be supporting their candidacy. We'd be pouring in, resources. I mean, people can tell me all day, if I was running for office, yeah, I'm gonna support you. Yeah, I'm with you, but if you're not, helping me knock on doors, or giving me resources, or pouring me money, I don't give a damn about your talk. That's just real. And that's just, and it's no different than the midterm elections, where you had an array of nice candidates, that was running, and they did absolutely nothing.
Let me
And,
make a statement right here, Keith. If you would like to join Keith Williams today, you can do it by phone, and that will be area code 205-218-9728. You can call and speak to Keith and have any questions or concerns or debate. He is ready and willing and able. But again, you can call me at 205-218-9728, and you can reach out and ask Keith questions. He is talking about the state of Democratic Party for the Alabama Democrats. All right, Keith, go ahead.
so, and that's what, right now, that is, kind of the conversation that we're having, right now. Why are we not giving, energy to Alabama Democrats that are running for office, but we're running, to another state? It's kind of like, uh, Alabama doesn't have a lottery, but we're flocking to Georgia, and we buying lottery tickets, and we're funding, whatever. I'm assuming that Georgia has an education lottery. So basically, we're paying for, support education in the state of Georgia, instead of working to try to have an education lottery in the state of Alabama. It's the same thing. We're giving all of our resources, to Georgia, and their candidate, but we're not giving the same, energy to Alabama Democrats that are running. I have a problem with that. And I know a lot of y'all do not agree with, me on that. I'd love to hear your perspective, on that. But I personally have a problem with that. Another problem that I have is that right now they're not even in the capacity to help no one, because of the inner problems, that we have. First of all, we don't know what happened to the party's money. We don't know what happened to the party's resources. Leadership, is out of whack. They want to undo the bylaws that was established in 2018. They want to, redo those. One of the things they want to do is to get rid of all of the, caucuses, and call them committees. They met a couple of months ago in Montgomery during the ADC conference, and this was one of the items that was on the agenda. I think it was back in October that they had this meeting, and a lot of the members of the SDC, they walked out. They walked out. So there was no quorum. So they really couldn't do any business. So right now, that is still up, in the air. That we don't know if the changes to the bylaws are going to happen, or not. I just know that at their last meeting, when this was brought up, a lot of the members did not know that this was going to take place. This was something that happened at the last minute. And you know how I am about last minute stuff. I don't like, last minute stuff, especially of this importance. I need, at least 24 to 48-hour notice at least. But it didn't happen. It's kind of like, you got some big business to handle, and they just slam you something right here. Okay, read these real quick, and we're gonna vote on it. You can't do that. And I'm like, I don't even have time to, like, read this and digest it. Maybe I have some questions, maybe I have some concerns. No, it didn't go down like that. There was like, well, here it is, here's the proposal, y'all need to vote on it. And it was like, well, no, we're not going to do that. And they walked out. And I'm glad, that they did. Because why in the world? Because I don't think a lot of people know exactly what it took to rearrange some things in the Alabama Democratic Party. It wasn't easy, and it's definitely was not nice. There was a lot of lawsuits involved. It was not easy. And I hate when the DNC had to come, and intervene in another state's Democratic Party. But at that time, SDC did not have no choice because they had no one else to turn to. So they had to go to them, and they made the party redo the bylaws. And now they had this conference, and Joe Reed and Kelly, they want to, undo all the work that was done, 4 years ago. No, I don't support that.
Hey Keith, you got a question. You said, so what you're saying is, on one hand you're saying nobody's helping, then on one hand you're saying there's no resources. Thanks for joining in, Richard. John Richards, if you want to call in, you can call in today at 205-218-9728, and you can add comments or debate Keith Williams, whichever way you want to do it. Keith is ready for either way. Again, that's 205-218-9728. You can call in, and you can
Yeah,
join.
I want to I want to address that.
Hey, he also said those are Alabama problems. People get in their cars and donate their time, and you have a problem with that. So it's basically kind of all going together with what we've been talking about. One of the things he's talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is that Keith Williams has an issue with the people got in the car for Warnock, for Senator Warnock, to go to Georgia from Alabama, but we had a senator that was running here as Will Boyd, and nobody really kind of campaigned for him towards the Democratic Party. That's what Keith is saying. And I understand and I agree too, because I know Will Boyd personally, and I felt that he didn't get a lot of attention that he needed as well. That was an important seat. Also, we had a governor for Alabama that we didn't do.
But ain't nobody gonna sit here and tell me that.
Keith, I hold 1 second, I'm sorry. One more time, John. Hey man, appreciate. Can you hear him, Keith?
No, I cannot hear him.
Say one more thing, John.
I still can't hear him.
Oh, he said he can't hear you for some reason, John. But we'll go ahead and I tell you, let me do this right here. Say something now, John. Speak to Keith. Hello? Can you hear him, Keith?
Yes, I can hear him now.
Hello? He can hear you now, John. Go ahead, brother.
Sound like somebody got disconnected. Was it me?
No, go ahead. He can hear you now.
Okay. I just had a couple of comments. I was listening to Keith's dialogue a moment ago, and he started off by saying that he didn't feel it was fair for the Alabama Democrats to be sending resources and people to another state to help somebody else out when they didn't do the same here. And then he came right after that and said, made the comments about the Alabama Democrats didn't have any resources, there's no one available to help. So my question is, why is it a problem when people get in their car, take their time, donate their time to go help somebody else? Why would that be a problem regardless of whether they're Democrat or not? They're spending their time and their money. They're not taking any money from Alabama Democratic Party to go help somebody else, because quite frankly, Alabama Democratic Party ain't got no money. So I hear what you're saying about, nobody getting help here, but that's our fault. I mean, you can't blame a group of 10 or 15 women and men that take their time out, their money to go help somebody else. I mean, I don't understand that at all.
I have to disagree with you on that. I really do. Because if they are willing to to scrape and scramble to go to another state to help a candidate in another state? Should they not do the same for candidates who are running in their own state? I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time. I'm having a hard time agreeing with that concept. I mean, have you ever heard the saying "charity begins at home"? It's kind of like I have a dirty house, and I know I need to clean up my house, but instead of cleaning up my house, I decided I'm going to neglect my house and go and help someone else. That's crazy. So it's kind of like this. It's kind of like this same, scenario. You got candidates, there are, I could see, if they put in the same energy that they did in Georgia and Alabama, during the midterms, and then they go over to Georgia, and help a candidate in Georgia, I probably would not be seeing, a whole lot. But the fact of the matter is that they did not put in the same energy, in Alabama and decide to put in the same energy in Georgia. That's where I have a problem with. I'm not saying, what they did, was wrong. I'm just concerned. I'm really concerned that, we're dealing with a candidate from another state, but we got problems here in our own state that we still are not dealing, with yet. I'm really concerned, about that. Again, it's that analogy that I'm overlooking my dirty house to clean up someone else's house. I just cannot agree with that. I'm sorry. I can't.
I think what you're trying to say, Keith, is, and I understand what you're saying, is that the lackadaisical effort it feels toward Alabama candidates, because I knew in 2017 there was like 100 and some candidates that ran for office locally, and the news only covered maybe the mayors, like 4 of the mayors out of all of those candidates. So it's almost like a system set up to, if you don't have the name recognition or the money or things like that, you're not going to really make it in Alabama politics. If you're not backed by the powers that be, the system of it, you don't have a chance. And so if you know that, and then to get in your car, Richard, and that's what he's saying, to get in your car, to put your resources out or ride by bus or whatever, to go and help a candidate that's not in your state, that can't help you locally in Birmingham, because he's not. Just be honest, Georgia is not going to help Alabama before Alabama senators will. So I get what you're saying, Keith. But to go back, all right, let's say, why does Mr. Reed have so much power in Alabama that you feel that he has been running things for so long?
Why is that a question for me?
Yeah, for you. Why do you feel that why does he have so much power? Because I know in Birmingham and in Alabama, the political groups basically kind of run things a little bit. They have a real big voice in Alabama.
I think we have to. So Joe Reed's influence in state politics goes back decades. Now, I don't know the logistics of that, but from what I heard, the purpose of the Alabama Democratic Party, conference rather, was, an entity that was created to give, African American a voice in politics. That's why it was started. And I have no problem, with that. And the way the SDC is set up is that you have to have a simple majority of African American representation, in the Alabama Democratic Party. I have no problem with that either. So that's pretty much how things, are set up. The problem, that I'm having is that when you have one person or a small group of people, controlling, everything, even right now, who gets to serve and who gets not to serve and who cannot, serve, that's where we got problems. Because based on my observation during the August 13th, meeting, it appears that, that you have folks like Kelly and Reed who specifically said, they want to do away with the caucuses because they feel that that African Americans, would lose representation, in a party, which is not true. If anything, it's going to increase the number of African Americans, in the Alabama Democratic Party. Well, how so? Because the majority of the individuals that are serving in these different caucuses are African American.
Let me ask you a question about local government.
Okay.
Basically, Birmingham is a Democratic administration, and it has been for the last about 40 years, right? The Democratic majority. So, what do you feel about the local administration? I'm not talking about specifically anybody in there. I'm just saying the whole process of that. What do you feel about that?
Well, let me start with the political, organizations. And Lonnie, I'm just going to be real with you. I think that the political organizations that we have, presently, they are irrelevant and they are out of touch with the people. And I say that, because right now we're living in a political climate that is muddy and cloudy. It's gotten to the point where people don't even want to go to the polls, and vote. Yes, alone having a candidate, knock on the door and say, hey, would you vote for me? Because number one, they feel that whoever is in office, they're not going to cater to my interests. And plus you have a lot of people that says that, okay, my vote is not going to count, anyway. But that is simply not true. And what we're lacking here in Birmingham, is folks that are, really sitting down, with the public and say, okay, this is why you need to vote. This is why voting is, it's important. You need to know why your vote does count and why voting matters. And for that particular reason, I am personally hosting what I call Voting 101, in which I will be gathering experts and panelists from all over the state. And we're going to have a panel discussion about voting. This is like a voter education. There'll be a series of voting education, segments that the first one will actually be on December 17th. That's next Saturday. Next Saturday at 2:30 will be the first one. And basically we're going to have, a panelist of grassroots organizers and activists all over the state. And we simply going to be talking, giving a voter a lesson and voter education. We don't have that here. So people, really don't know the logistics of voting, why it's important, why it's important to, to hold, not only candidates accountable, but people who are in office, accountable. Why it's important to research your candidate. Why is it, important to, well, we also had to talk about voter suppression because that's a lot to have to do with the voting issue, in the first place. So those are some of the topics, that are going to be discussed. And it's badly needed because here in Birmingham, I cannot think of any individual or any organization, who have actually, talked about those issues and relating to voting. And that is one of the main problems that we have locally. No political education, no voters education. What you got is that you have a lot of political groups and a lot of political organizations. They pretty much have predetermined who they're going to support. It happens every year. You're a candidate running for office. You go, to these candidate screenings, and you pretty much have an idea of who they're going to select. That is not democratic at all. That's not what I call a democratic process, because it means that you're not giving everybody a chance, because they already predetermined who they're going to support, and the person that they're supporting may not be the people's choice, or that person may not serve the people's best interest. So there has to be some type of underhanded shadiness that's going on as to why they chose this candidate. Now, if I give an example on the state level, let's take the ADC, for example. That ADC charges hundreds of dollars for a person. They ask you to give between $300 and $500 just to be considered to be endorsed, and 9 times out of 10 you might not get endorsed, but you're just out of $300 to $500. Why would I waste my money on that, where I can take that $300 to $500, and man, I can buy, I can do flyers, I can do postcards, I can knock on so many doors. I can stretch that $300 to $500, to make the campaign work, rather than giving it to someone that's not going to do anything, for me. Now, keep in mind, when you're running for office, that's like an investment. Now, where you put your investment in is also determines how well you're going to do, at the polls. It's not a major deal breaker, but it sure is definitely part of the equation. And I think people really need to understand that. So next Saturday, I'm going to do a voting 101. It's going to be a panel discussion on voting, and no topic about voting is going to be left unturned. So that's next Saturday at 2:30 p.m. It's going to be on Zoom. And I hope that for those of you who are watching and listening, that you would tune in. Chat will be open. So if you have any questions or you want to make some comments, we're welcome, because we need to talk about this. Okay. This is very serious. I don't think people really, understand the logistics, of voting, because we're so used to, allowing people to tell us, who to vote for. And that person may not serve our best interests. And so with that, we kind of need some help, in that area. And right now, I don't see a lot of, people, that are doing it. So guess what? I took it upon myself to do something. Even if I'm the only one, on that call, I'm going to do what I have to do, because I think the people, really need to know. And if I distribute to enough podcast platforms, somebody's going to hear. Somebody's going to get the information, and somebody is going to spread that information. But I believe it begins with one person. One person can plant the seed. And who knows? We may have more people than we care to count that will actually benefit from this information. So that's what I plan on doing.
Give them
not only
again, Keith.
Go ahead.
Give them the date and time again.
Next Saturday, December 17th at 2:30 p.m. And I'm going to post the Zoom link on Facebook. So if you want to tune into the conversation, you can. We will try to stream it live on YouTube and Facebook as well. So if you're, not able to join on Zoom, you would be able to tune in on YouTube and Facebook. Again, that is next Saturday, December the 17th at 2:30 p.m.
And what are you going to be talking about again for the people just joining?
Voting 101. What is the logistics of voting? Why voting is important, why it matters, and what are the consequences of not voting. Those are just some of the topics that we will be discussing. Now, I do want to point out that even though those are the basic, topics, other things, may come up because the panel that I'm putting together, they have been doing a lot of community organizing, in the field of voting. Some of them have been candidates in the past. And so some other things, may pop up as a result of this conversation. But the bottom line is that this conversation needs to be had.
Now I was responding to Latonya Millhouse, Keith. She's gonna join in about 15 minutes. She's headed to Atlanta, I think, or for a family and function, but she's coming here. I got it. She'll be in about 15 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. Again, I am welcome to answer any questions, address any concerns. Again, this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion. So some things, I probably got right, and some things that I probably got wrong. But here we're having this conversation because, it needs to be addressed.
Well,
One of the things.
I don't think it's necessarily right and wrong, Keith. I think it's just an opinion, and opinions will always have a right and wrong connotation to it. I think what it is it depends on whose side you're on. That's who's in the administration, right? Because there are some people who is on the other side of everybody that's in office right now, and they may feel different than you. But that's the thing about voting and the power of voting and the fruit of voting. Somebody is going to be happy, somebody is not, right? Somebody is happy with every current administration everywhere, right? From Joe Biden to the mayor of Maine to all of those places, right? Somebody's happy and somebody is not. So, but I get what you're saying, or for the most part, everybody's still different when it comes to voting and what their beliefs are. I don't think it's right or wrong, but I think you have the right to say what you want to say. I'm glad that you're doing that. And I'm also glad that you're putting on this forum next Saturday at 2:30 by Zoom. I hope you got that full version so it won't cut us off in 30 minutes, because I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I actually, yes, I actually have the full version.
I'll just mess with you.
I
But I really, man, I'm glad you're doing that. I really think, because as a black man in the community, we still have to fight to vote in 2022. And I don't understand, why is it so hard to just write it into to law, that we don't have to keep fighting for this thing. I think that once you're out of jail, I believe even when you're in jail, you should vote. I think you should be able to, I think they should have a voting poll. I think that they should be able to vote, because even though they're in jail, they're still getting resources and money for census off of jail. So if you can get money, the same way they got people in jail now for marijuana, but yet you got billions of dollars flowing through Colorado and all these other states now. Why are you people still in jail for? And I can even say kingpins who just sold weed, right? The people who got for 1,000 pounds of weed. it don't matter. You're doing it legally now. Why are those people still in jail? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so voting helps with all of that. When you get out of jail or college or anything, you're looking to start anew, right? No matter which way you're doing it. Whoever's in office hinders that. You see what I'm saying? But if you're voter suppression, Georgia was one of the recently, I don't understand. I am disgusted by how Georgia is how they always seem to voter suppress openly. They're not even hiding that you're doing it. I don't think that a Secretary of State should be able to run for office and hold the current office. I think they should have to step down. Right? It don't make sense.
Or at least
leave
an absence. So
I don't understand how you can control the vote and still run. That's like you're never going to lose. You almost got to be a Herschel Walker, right? Just a bad candidate to lose when you're controlling the vote. Same as county clerk for any county. I don't think they should be able to hold office. And I'm not speaking against it. Well, I'm not even going to throw these apologies out there. I mean what I mean. I don't think that you should be able to hold office and control votes. I just don't think that's what it is. I'm a purist, man, or traditionalist. I believe in, when I say conservatism, I'm talking about conserving the Constitution. And yeah, it wasn't written for us, right, as a black man. But God let it be written so perfectly that even today in 2022, it helps us. The Bible wasn't written for you and I, Keith. We wasn't born yet, but God wrote it so perfectly that it helps us today. So when people talk about, well, the black man wasn't even considered human, well, were there really a lot of other races in America? You get what I'm saying? There wasn't a lot of Spanish in America or per se, or it was Americans per se. It was black and white, really, when that thing was written.
Because
a lot for the books, man.
Because a lot of the people that came and colonized, the 13 colonies, which became, United States. Basically, they was immigrants themselves. They came from Europe.
Everybody was immigrant. That's exactly right. And America is a melting pot. It always will be, because if you have a lack of resources anywhere, you're going to have people looking for better.
The thing about that is that the people who came from Europe, they came to America by choice. The people that was taken from their homeland in Africa to be slaves in America, they did not come here by choice. There's a big difference in that.
Yes, it is. You're exactly right.
But the fact of the matter is that even though we are still, dealing with some political and socioeconomic issues in this country, African Americans have come a long way. There has been a lot of contributions, even in the state of Alabama. You have the civil rights movement. Even, when it comes to Joe Reed, and him, establishing the Alabama Democratic Conference, it has done a lot of good for, African Americans to gain power politically, in the state. But at this point, we are turning into a different direction.
Well, okay. We're coming up to an hour, Keith. We're right at 49 minutes. So I don't know. I don't want to hold the people much longer, but give the people one more time. What are you going to do next Saturday? The time and the location again?
So next Saturday, I will be having a group of panelists, grassroots panelists from all over the state, and we're going to begin a series of voting education sessions, because I think people, really need to understand the logistics of what voting, really is. Not based on, partisan outlook or some political organization. We're going to get right down in the dirt, about voting. the way it needs to be. And that would be on Zoom. And I will be posting the Zoom link this week. Uh, it is scheduled for next Saturday, December the 14th at 2:30 p.m. And it will be broadcast live on Facebook and on YouTube. Again, that is next Saturday, December the 17th at 2:30 p.m. on Zoom, and it'll be simulcast on Facebook and YouTube.
How
So if you are available at that time, please, please join us. If you are a grassroots organizer who deals, who deals with political education, voting, we love for you to come on and to provide your questions and your expertise and your comments. We welcome. Let's sit down and have a real conversation.
Well, I'm coming on as a Black conservative, Keith. I'm gonna mess some stuff up. How can the Black belt make a difference economically?
How can the Black belt make a difference economically? Well, first of all, one of the things that we need to talk about is what is really going on, in the Black belt. Now, after doing my research, I learned that the average income in the Black belt is less than $10,000 a year. Second of all, there's not a lot of industry, in the Black belt. Lonnie, I'm sure you heard what that Green Track over in Greene County is in a lot of trouble. They're trying to take that, away from them, which has been one of the main source of income, for the region. In fact, a lot of people, depend on, that business for, their income, and now that's being, threatened. So there's not a lot of business in, the Black belt. Third thing that's going on is the fact that you have a lot of hospitals that have been closed. So if you live like in Selma, the nearest hospital to you is probably Montgomery.
Wow.
And 9 times out of 10, when you are in a dire emergency, the chances of you, getting medical care in emergency is almost slim to none, because they have closed all the rural hospitals, or most of them, if not the vast majority of them. So those are the three problems, that we have. Now, what do I believe that can be done, to rectify this situation? First of all, what I notice about the area is that the Black belt, in my opinion, is one of the richest agricultural centers, in the state of Alabama, if not the Southeast. And back in the days in the old South, mind for you, agriculture ruled the old South. That's how they made their money. And you had all types of things, from corn to tobacco. That's how they from Texas to Virginia, agriculture was, the main thing. But now we're coming to a point that even in the South, the South in some areas like Atlanta and Miami and Nashville are becoming, more industrialized. Some places are more into technology, but for the state of Alabama, we're basically like 50 years behind. And I believe that right now in that area, what will work for them is agriculture. That's
I
one thing. Number two, number two thing is that with the talk about environmental justice, one of the things that I could see in that area is in the Black belt is getting that area involved with what is called the green economy. What is the green economy? That means that we find a way to be less dependent, on fossil fuels, and that we engage in more alternative sources of energy, like solar power, and wind power. For example, you can have, windmills. You can have a windmill farm where you use wind to produce electricity, or you use solar technology to produce, energy, like a solar farm. I think that would do well, in the Black Belt, in an area that is lacking in those type of resources. That can bring thousands of good paying jobs to that area, to where they don't have to struggle making $10,000, a year.
Keith,
It's not.
I'm sorry, Keith. I want to. I know she's on the road. We have Latonya Millhouse, president of the Alabama Democratic Women, joining us. She's actually on, so I wanted to make sure she had a few minutes to talk. I know she's in between meetings right now. So, Tanya, are you here? I don't know if she heard me or not. Let's see. But go ahead. Finish your statement why she might be doing something else right now.
Okay. Basically what I'm saying is that the Black Belt could benefit from, a green economy, by utilizing plans to have alternative energy, such as wind power or solar power, and that can bring thousands of jobs to the area. And these are good paying jobs. There are a few areas across the country that are utilizing this type of technology. I think Alabama could definitely utilize this technology to the point that we would be less dependent on fossil fuels. It would be less dependent on Alabama Power, which we get our power from, which is a monopoly.
And they're going up right now.
Yep. Yeah, they just announced that starting January, there's going to be a rent increase. And then, of course, with the Birmingham Waterworks Board, for example, they did a rate increase in December, and now there's going to be another one in January. So, so when we're talking about survival, we cannot think of it in a traditional sense. In a way, we almost have to be innovative. And with the issue of climate change and environmental justice that always sticks to my head, I think that having a green economy in the Black Belt region would not only benefit that region, but it's going to benefit the entire state. And that, I believe, would bring us out of that economic slump, that we've been having for so long. Again.
But when you're talking about that's more of a vision of a leader. And our current administration, as far as government, wants to use the COVID money to build prisons instead of ... You're trying to build 3 mega prisons, which I don't understand. If one is so bad, I get it. Tear that one down. But you're building anytime, and like the California governor said, I'm building schools and you're building prisons. And I think the California governor is Republican as well. If not, but he still said that you're coming at me, but I'm using the money to try to build schools and build for the future. Building for prisons is not the future, man. Anytime you build a prison, that's the end. And you're talking about a few jobs for some police officers, right? I don't care about that. You got to put people in that position, and like I know, the majority of prisons are going to be Black because it's still slavery. When 13th Amendment, that's still legalized slavery. Mm-hmm. So to sit up and say, I want to be you got to be some evil to sit up and want to build prisons instead of schools, because what you're saying is this is your end, because we know the school system that you already have is worse and it's designed to put you here. So we're just building to do that. That's the kind of that doesn't make sense to me. Right? So even in the Black Belt, like a lot of these schools are going to be down in toward the these prisons were supposed to be down toward the Black Belt. It doesn't make sense. You're going to give a few jobs of slave or overseers, let me call them that, because that's what they're doing. Prison is not to what that word they use, rehabilitate. Prison is a business, and businesses are created to stay in business. So it's created to keep you locked up and locked down. I got 3 boys, man. Right? So if something happened to me or my wife and they have to fend for themselves or with family members or something, they may not adjust. That's what a lot of kids go. You don't know what these kids are going through in their personal lives, right? So we're so quick to want to just destroy our communities and throw them in jail and throw them away. So that's another thing about voting. The Democratic Party seems to be weak when it comes to standing up for issues. It's supposed to be a black party, which I don't see at all. But
I agree, and I agree. Here's the thing about that. Yeah, and this is based on newspaper articles. Now, in a couple of newspaper articles that I have read, they sounded contradictory to me. Now, back in August of this year, there was a whole lot of gripe about, we don't want young people to serve, and the African American, presence in the Alabama Democratic Party, is under fire. But then I read these articles, and I'm hearing Joe Reed and Kelly saying that, we need white people to join the Alabama Democratic Party. We need young people to join the Alabama Democratic Party. But then on the other hand, you saying, they're trying to get rid of them. So I find that very, contradictory, because they are too weak and too cowardly to deal with the actual issue that's in front of them, and that is self-accountability. Now, you cannot say, okay, we're going to hold the Republican Party accountable for what they're not doing, instead of not looking at what you're doing or what you're not doing. It's kind of like, in the Bible, it says, well, your brother may have your brother may have a speck in his eye, but I got a plank in mine.
Yeah.
How am I going to see what this other person is doing if I don't remove the plank from my eye?
Right.
So it kind of.
One second, I think Tanya is here. Tanya, can you hear me? Ms. Millhouse. I hear something in the background. I don't know. Ms. Millhouse, can you hear us? Hello?
I hear something.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. She dipped off, man. This is she was in the car, sound like. But yeah, Keith, I just, she'll come back. But I think it's just, I think we have these buzzwords in both parties to make people react like animals.
Yep.
Animals, right? If we say in the Republican Party something against Trump or you better not vote for Democrat, you know what I'm saying? They act a certain way. Red meat, blue meat, or whatever they want to call it. Then you have the Democrat. If you call a Democrat, you're acting like an independent or a Republican. That's a fight. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're selling out. Just, we have these words, right? Like conservative. And I use that purposely because you calling a black man, a person, a sellout when they call themselves conservative. Well, everybody is not liberal. You understand what I'm saying? It's really a moderate, because you can see both sides of the road, right? I've always been a both sides of the road person. I can understand both parties, and I've never went against anything, right? I'm like, if whatever you believe is what you believe, and a lot of times far left and far right are the same. They're not any different. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And it really boils down. Yeah. So when it really boils down to really serving the people's interest, I don't think neither party has been up to the task. Let's just be real, okay? At least the Republicans are, they know who they are, and they're not afraid to show us who they are. But on the Democratic side, they're hiding.
Well, okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, Keith. I've only been really mistreated by the Democrats. That's the God honest truth. That's the, I try my best to help anytime I can donate or donate my time, money, find anything. I promise you, I catch more hell from Democrats than I have the Republican Party, which is
You
weird.
are not you are not alone. I feel you. I feel you, on
And a
that right
lot of
now.
men feel this way. You had a president who said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. That is the most disrespectful thing that you can. Why would you tell a black person you don't vote for me, you ain't black? You don't say that, man. You don't earn the right to say that. And we justify this thing. You got Jerry Jones, right? You got Kyrie Irving, right? Who posted a link. And I said this the other day. He just posted a link where Jerry Jones was actually trying to stop progress. Alabama used to stop progress. That's how you got Vivian Malone and all of these people. That's
And
trying
let's not forget, that Brett Favre
Arkansas,
stole $5 million in Mississippi that was supposed to help the poor and low income, families in Mississippi. But we ain't
Jackson
having that
State.
conversation either.
Jackson State is they misallocated funds with Deion
And not to
Sanders.
mention in Jackson, Mississippi, where I have been on several occasions to where they want to privatize the water there.
And look at it, you don't have water. Tanya, can you hear us now? Let's get Tanya in, man, before we have to dip off here. Tanya, can you hear us? I don't know, man. I might have to go back to Zoom. StreamYard is it's not working well with NMT. I'm not digging this right here. Tanya, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead,
I can
Tanya.
hear you.
Please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I would be home in 5 minutes. I would like to be able to speak in about 5 minutes if that's possible, because I'm driving and it's a bad reception.
Yeah, we can do that. We can hold on for another 10, 15 minutes where you can get in and talk about.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So to continue addressing what you say about prisons, yes, you're right. Prisons are a big business. Just like slavery was a big business. What 300-400 years ago? It's practically the same thing. It's just been modernized. That's what happened. And you have a lot of corporations. Of course, they are investing. In these prisons, and just like any business, you expect a profit. Here's the problem. The problem is white supremacy. We know that Alabama Constitution, which was written in 1901, is the most racist document in American history. And it's not going away. Now, the fact of the matter that they have, removed the, racist language, it's a start. But you got people still benefiting, from a system that is old as this nation itself. That's a problem. Another problem that I see is that they're finding anything and everything, to lock Black people up. I had to tell some students at a school, about that, because the state of Alabama, they are counting on Black men, to end up, in jail. And our education system, unfortunately, is designed, for them to go to prison. It's called the school to prison pipeline. I'm sure you heard of that.
Yes.
Okay. It's for those of you who do not know what that is, it simply states that if your child does not read on a third grade level, it is a high probability that your child will be out in the streets, in jail, or dead. That's simply, that's simply what it is. And our education system, is designed, to do that. Alabama has one of the largest education budgets in history, over $7 billion. That's billion with a B. $7 billion. But for some reason, school districts that are predominantly African American are underfunded. That is by design. You got teachers all across the state, they're not being paid, adequately. A lot of school districts, especially in predominantly African American areas, are not fully funded and fully staffed. That is by design, because basically they're trying to fill up those prisons, and using $400 million of COVID money to do it is just downright disgusting. How can you blame this on how can they blame this on COVID, where the problem with our prisons had occurred long before we ever heard of COVID-19?
Keith, I want to ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Discretionary funds in Birmingham, Alabama, City Council. We're not even going to talk about the mayor's discretionary fund, but the City Council discretionary fund is how much a year?
$100,000 per year per counselor.
When did that start?
That was started in 2000. That started with fiscal year 2018.
So that's 4 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
100,000 per 9 councils. So that's $900,000.
Yes.
Times 4. Right?
3.6 million.
All right. So what have they done with $3.6 million?
I don't know.
Have they helped any businesses? Have they done anything publicly with their money? What have they done? $3.6 million. Nobody, even the news, nobody has asked the question is, where has this discretionary fund gone? Now, I saw an article, they were saying when they rezone for their base. Basically, what they're saying is they rezone their district so they can stay in office. So what have they done? Why is nobody asking, what have you done with $3.6 million? Now, we're not even talking about the $50,000 they was getting before that, right? But you got $3.6 million that's just out there, and we call it discretionary fund. What have they done with it?
I wish I can answer. I wish I can give you an answer to that, but I can't, because I don't know. In fact, I don't think hardly anybody knows except them, because it has been a practice that they never disclose what they do with their discretionary funds. So we don't know.
My point. So
I have no idea. and that's a problem, because keep in mind that money is part of the budget, which comes from the taxpayer. And as a taxpayer, I have the right to know where those funds are going to the penny. Don't you agree?
I agree. But see, that's what that's my whole point. Nobody, I mean, it's on the state level as well. My point is, you tell me I could get rid of $3.6 million. The way Birmingham is struggling, I can do anything I want with $3.6 million.
And not only that, Birmingham just practically giving money away.
We building a $50 million. I'm sorry. Tanya Millhouse, are you on? It looked like Tanya's joining right on time. Tanya, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fantastically well.
How's it going?
I am fantastically well.
Awesome.
What are you here for today, Tanya Millhouse, the president of the Democratic Women?
Alabama Democratic Women.
Democrat. Let me get it right. Make sure I show it right. Hold on one second.
Yes, the Alabama Democratic Women. Yes.
Presidente. Presidente.
Yes. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. My phone was blowing up. Text messages was blowing up. We were talking about the trip to Georgia, so of course my phone was blowing up.
There she was one of them, Keith.
I know.
She was one of them, Keith. Get her, Keith. Get her.
I know.
I took a whole bus. I took a bus to Georgia. So what do we? I mean, you get that because we went to Georgia.
I think it goes. I think it goes a little deeper than that. It's not the trip to Georgia that concerns me. You know what concerns me is that the Alabama Democratic Party is in a huge disarray, mess. We had candidates here in the state of Alabama that, ran for office, and they had absolutely no support from ADP at all. I mean, absolutely nothing. I mean, the county Democratic parties did what they could, but obviously it was not enough. And shout out to all the Democratic party, county Democratic parties for doing their thing. They tried. But I believe in an election of this magnitude, your state party should be behind you. It has not. In fact, I had a lot of candidates contacting me, telling, not complaining, but they was telling me, how frustrated there was because they're not getting help from the state party. My problem is that we had an opportunity to elect some fine candidates, but the state Democratic Party was not behind them. And I was deeply disturbed that hardly little to no energy was given to them. But when Senator Raphael Warnock was running in, for reelection in Georgia, people from Alabama flocked over to Georgia, to give time and energy over there, and hardly nothing, in Alabama. And that really concerns me.
Well, so here's some of that. Some of that is not absolutely true. You have some diehard Democrats that worked so hardly here and volunteered their time here were some of the same Democrats that went on the bus and went to Georgia. So you have the diehard Democrats that actually led some of those efforts. So that's not absolutely true. My hopes was that we would build momentum or energy here in Alabama off of Warnock. Now that was my hopes. So I had those issues with the party not just the party, but Democrats as well. So you got this side and you got this side. So I split, they splitting the baby. So I take the baby back together, put on that bus, and we drove on down the road. We drove down the middle. So
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the Alabama State Democratic Party, as a whole.
I got it, but
I'm not pointing out any individuals,
no.
or
What
anything like that. I'm talking about as a party as a whole.
Well, the party as a whole is not coming to save us. It's time for us to save ourselves.
Now that I do agree with.
What?
I agree. I agree. I totally agree.
So one of the things that Warnock.
Wait a minute. Whoa, don't just shoot past that. Don't.
I'm not shooting past that. Hold on. One of the things that Warnock's thing said was get off the sideline, put your walking shoes on, and knock on doors with us. That was the assignment. So we got on the bus and we followed the assignment.
But
so couldn't that be done right here in Alabama?
We complain about the party. We complain about the party. The party is not coming to save you. Get off the sideline and do something.
But now people have been getting mad for years.
We haven't had a Democratic governor for what, 20 years?
No,
it's time to get off the sideline.
Walt Maddox could have been a governor.
Correct.
The people who stayed home, correct, that was registered could
correct,
have gotten Maddox in. Now, you're saying it's time to save ourselves. Isn't that the same as pulling up your bootstraps, which Democrats have been getting mad at for years when people told them to pull up the bootstraps? Save yourself is saying pull up your bootstraps.
Okay, well, it's time to get off the sideline. They're not coming to save us. If we waiting on that great white hope to come save us, it's not gonna happen. And as much as I can, I'm gonna keep pushing down the middle. So if this party is split, hopefully I can pick up some on this side and I can pick up some on this side, and we can keep on pushing down the middle and make a difference.
I kind of like that idea myself, Lonnie. I mean, she is absolutely right.
But my point is, if somebody say black people need to pull up their bootstraps, you get mad because that's racist. Now you're saying it a slightly different way. You're saying
no, I didn't say black people. I said Democrats. I didn't say blacks.
What's the Democratic agenda?
I understand the break that. What's the state party's agenda?
It don't matter. What's the Democratic Party's agenda?
I have to look it up, but I'm gonna tell you what my agenda is if you want to know.
Of course, any information.
I'm pushing for a Medicare expansion. First of all, in this state or just across the country, we got black women dying at an alarming rate due to lack of health care. And now Alabama doesn't have a Medicare expansion. So I'm pushing for health care for all, number one. I'm pushing it hard across the state. I've been in that situation where I couldn't get my blood pressure medicine. It was new onset to me, didn't know I needed blood pressure medicine. The emergency room does not do preventive care or preventive medicine. You have to go get a prescription. Because I had somebody tell me before, well, I don't see why, because Publix will give it to you for free. They will. With a prescription. Which means I have to go see a doctor.
Lonnie, are you asking me the same question?
No, you can respond. I'm just saying.
Medicare expansion would bring jobs to the state. Some of those places in the Black Belt, they have to travel 40, 30 minutes to an emergency room with a heart attack. It would eliminate a lot of those issues. It would bring jobs and money and save lives.
So you want me to respond to the same question?
Yeah, before we get ready to wrap up, we're at 1:22. We're gonna log off at 1:30. So 8 minutes, roundhouse. Go ahead. We're gonna get back on eventually because I think you all have got great ideas. I just find it amazing now that they say pull up your bootstraps.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that has a negative connotation. I get that. I get that because I'm telling you personally, if I be transparent, here, every time someone asks for help, that's what they say. Pull up your bootstraps, right? So we got to define, well, what does that mean? Are we saying it in a good way or are we saying it in a, in a bad way? But one thing I do know for certain is that one thing I know for certain is that we cannot continue to do the same thing.
Well, we've been
and looking for a different result. Right. We got to do something. We got to do something different. Okay.
That's right.
And what has been working in the past, or what has been done in the past, is definitely not working. I've seen it for myself.
Well,
it's definitely not working.
Well, prime example, I'm not using word pull up your bootstraps. I understood the assignment. Not everybody understand that. That's one of the most popular TikTok videos. I understood the assignment. So the assignment is to get some Democrats out to vote. Period.
Now, Tanya, I don't know if you heard Keith is doing a voter discussion next Saturday at 2:30. Did you know that?
No.
I think you'll be great on there. He's doing a panel.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing a panel discussion on that's simply titled Voting 101. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes and the logistics of voting. Why is it important? What are the consequences? What are the outcomes? What do we need to know? And I believe that you would be perfect for this discussion. We already have a couple of people that are coming on board. I would love for you to join this discussion because you have a lot to offer, and people need to hear your voice.
Okay.
So it would be
2:30
next Saturday, December the 17th at 2:30 p.m. It's going to be on Zoom, and we hope to have it broadcast live on Facebook, and YouTube so that we can reach more people.
Okay. Yes.
I'm
You know,
joining.
again, that's
Definitely
next
count.
Saturday. Okay, great. Again, that's next Saturday at 2:30 p.m. And I will be posting the link on Facebook pretty soon.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you just joined us today, we're about to log off actually, but I hope you go back and listen to what we've discussed. Today we have community activist Keith O. Williams and the president of the Alabama Democratic Women, LaTanya Millhouse, as a guest today. Me personally, I am starting a group called Rise Up. It is geared direct toward men and voting. I don't think Birmingham hasn't had one in a while. I know we had 100 black men, but that wasn't geared toward voting. But the Rise Up would be geared toward community service, basically taking our communities back. We are losing babies. We had a 2-year-old, I believe, got shot recently. A 5-year-old got shot recently. And I'm not just putting it on the administration. I'm not just putting it on the police. There is a community. And I want us to get past this no snitching, which is one of the craziest and untruths of the street code there ever was. Because as soon as they get caught, I seen a guy the other day they was making fun of. At first, he was talking about, man, I didn't have anything to do with it. They said they gave him some snacks and he started talking like I don't know what. So there is a thing that don't believe the hype that talking about no snitching, because as soon as they get caught, they are going to snitch. I wish you can hear some people talk about it. I'm gonna see if I can get Jude Washington on. He does great at these kind of conversations and stuff. But man, when I tell you, talking about the first time they get in trouble, they are going to throw you under the bus. So man, it's time to take back our communities. I'm not getting into this he, she, we, this and that. I'm speaking directly to men. If it turns out that the women want to join later on, but right now we need the men to get back to where we go and talk to the schools. We go and talk to the people. We go talk to the children. We having babies being shot. Not long ago, there was a young girl going to Osceola, a 14-year-old. She was shot in the car. Dude standing in the middle of the street in the morning. You mad over breakfast, like Cat Williams say? This is where we are. Crime is not going to go down. You take away opportunity, you take away education, you take away possibilities, and crime will go up. I believe, like New York, you get caught with an illegal gun, you get 3 years automatic. That will stop some of this junk already. I'm tired of, I've had several friends and recently in the last few years pass away through the gun violence. I know Lavert Mickens was taking care of his business, and a dude was telling people, I'm going to kill him, and killed him. Then there's, I have a church member who recently died for gun violence. Man, I'm tired. I don't want to be in Alabama. That is no secret now. I came back strictly because interest rates slowed down the housing market in Texas. That's why I'm back in Birmingham. I don't want to be back unless Birmingham is going to do something different. When you go somewhere and you see possibility, when you see growth, when you see lack of excuses, you see that politicians have to do their job because they only got 1 term limit, 1 or 2 term limits. They don't have this, I can stay in office. They don't have that a mayor can stay in office 3, 4, 5 terms. A mayor only needs 2 terms. That's the God honest truth. Because their 3rd term, what are they doing? If they haven't done it by the 2nd term, they didn't try. Randall Wolfen be running for his 3rd term this time. He said he was only going to do 2. I'm disappointed in that. I am disappointed in that. I don't want him to run. Not that he's not a good mayor. Randall actually has done a lot of stuff. I have to give credit where credit is due. Mayor Whiffen has done a great job. He has done some stuff. It's time for him to move on. Go to Congress. Go to lieutenant governor. I would love to see him as lieutenant governor or senator or Congress. I would love that, because certain people thought I was crazy when I said Jay Robertson would have made a great mayor, because that's where his heart is at. When a man's heart is somewhere, they would do a better job because their heart is in there. Take a fact, women, when a man first dates you, when he's really into you, remember how he spoiled you and tried to do everything he could for you? That's what I'm talking about. I can't understand why we make our politicians celebrities and we just let them do what they want to do. It's time for growth, man. I don't get it twisted. I used to love Birmingham, but when I came back from Houston, I just don't, because we're not growing. Look outside. I said it before.
I can answer that for you.
Look out your door when you
I can answer that for you.
freaking city. What has changed in your area?
I'm telling you what Birmingham is dealing with. Distractions. We have too many distractions. You know, anytime that you have, for example, anytime that you have, you know, a city that's pulling in money and resources for entertainment event, I worry. You know, because sure, you want people to come visit, you know, your city. But Lonnie, we got problems. Okay. And now it's boiled down to priorities. I say all the time, for example, a business is not going to come in your city when they discover that you have a high crime rate. You know, it's not going to help their bottom line. It's definitely not going to, you know, help their business. For example, you got a bunch of Walmarts talking about their closing because of high theft.
Has the black businesses grown in Birmingham? Dog, I'm telling you, it's
really.
Nothing. I don't want, no, bump that. Again, I don't make excuses no more. If you don't know me now, I am not that Lonnie Malone that was trying to fit in with you. I'm not. I don't do that anymore. That man, that drove me. It had my spirit.
Because we're playing by the same, we're using the same playbook.
It sounds like you need Tanya. Can you tell us what is the Alabama Democratic Women? I forgot to ask you that. My bad. I'm getting back used to getting back online, so you got to excuse me. What is the Alabama Democratic Women?
So the Alabama Democratic Women is Democratic women that come together for mutual issues and to elect like-minded individuals. So we do have a few good men. We have been in existence. We do have a few good men that are part of the organization. We have been in existence since 1987. So off and on, a couple of chapters throughout the year, but and recharted. So I'm the first African-American president to ever oversee the state party, the state organization. So right now for 2023, we will do a series of training on leadership development for women across the state to have like-minded leaders across the state.
And again, for Rise Up, you could reach me right now. I thought I created a Gmail account for it, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to give it right now. What I'm going to do is I'll give one of my email addresses out at Lonnie, F as in Frank, Malone, Lonnie F. Malone, that's F as in Frank, Lonnie F. Malone at gmail.com. If you want to be a part of the building process of Rise Up, again, this is strictly for the men of right now, Birmingham, Alabama, and surrounding areas. I would like to make it a statewide thing, but it's really to get Black men voting, the apathy, because I got a little perturbed when Stacey Abrams, I guess the polls showed that she wasn't going to win. And they were saying that Black men was insecure. This is around the time Barack Obama was talking about cousin Pookie. See, that's the thing. I'm an educated black man, family oriented. I have a family. I have a stable job. I have a stable career. I have a stable family. I have a stable lifestyle. And I said some of them things a couple of times so you can understand. Don't call me cousin Pookie. That's an inside joke that we do on the corner. Don't get in public and do that. If you at a meeting and you know what I'm saying, if we're on the corner, we hanging out, there's certain things you used to do when we was children. We act a certain way when we was on the corner, but when we went in that house, we straightened up. Don't get in public and say if you're not black, if you don't vote for me. Don't talk about cousin Pookie. Don't do that to black men. Black men are not insecure no more than anybody else on this community. Stacey Abrams, I'm very disappointed in allowing that to come out. And if you looked at it, black men turned out in record numbers for her. Even if black men that voted for Kemp voted for her, she still wouldn't have won. So it wasn't a black man. It turned out it was the white female. These are just facts. It's not black and white to me. I don't care. What I'm saying is there's time out for this thing. Maybe we need to grow up as a community now. The first thing we want to do is drop off. So Keith, I thank you for joining us, man. We're going to have to jump off, but next Sunday is wide open if you want to jump back on. I think this is a great conversation. Tanya, if you want to join back, you're more than welcome. I would love to hear more about the Alabama Democratic women, but Rise Up, ladies and gentlemen, is coming. It's for voter apathy and to help get our communities back as a community, as a black man. Every color is welcome. I'm not looking for the super Democrat. I'm not looking for the super Republican. I'm looking for that black man that feels like they don't have a voice. I don't care what you vote for. That's not my issue. This is designed to get rid of voter apathy. When a person comes out of jail, what are their resources? They are out there, but a lot of men don't know. You understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of things we can do to help people. Let's rise up all together now, like that song, all together now. I don't care about your color. Miss me with it. I don't care about Democrat, Republican. Miss me with it. If you think I'm playing, say something. If you think that, well, I'm not going to include Lonnie in this group, look at your call log and see how many times I've called you. You're not important to me. If you got an idea of thinking that you're going to ostracize me, you are not important to me. You don't exist to me. I don't care about you. Quit wasting your time thinking you're important and got real estate in my mind. If you think you're ostracizing me, you're crazy. You're a freaking idiot. Kill yourself. Meaning, I mean that. Kill yourself. I'm telling y'all, I am not that Lonnie Malone that wanted to fit in, tried his best to fit in with y'all.
Did you just say kill yourself though?
Kill yourself. I'm playing. I when I tell you, I was so bogged down trying to fit in and trying to not hurt feelings. But when people dog me out, calling me stuff, saying stuff, you're not going to have that opportunity anymore. Corey Holcomb said it best. Why are you messing with people nowadays that ain't messing with you? I ain't got time for you no more. I don't need to come to your house. I ain't spending no more money with you. I spend thousands of dollars with people trying to fit in, trying to help their cause. And you know what? I've had a nonprofit since 2012, and I ain't got no donations. See what I'm saying? When you don't take it anymore, it don't happen to you. Quit taking it, people. And I'm not doing it. I'm not sour. When I tell you I am happy, I am free. I'm going to be who I am. I don't care about your issues no more. If you're not helping everybody or trying, Keith, I saw Keith, man, struggle these years. I saw Keith struggle these. This dude got so much knowledge. He ain't trying to hurt nobody. This dude got knowledge about the budget. This dude got knowledge about political stuff that can help children. I have seen Tanya, man, I don't see why Tanya's still doing it. I don't see why Tanya's involved. That woman cares about her community. I am tired of people who are caring about their community and want Antoine Womack, different different things. These people care. And we keep giving it to people who don't give a flip. That's why I'm saying I can't do it anymore. And I'm not, man. I'm not. So next Sunday, 3 p.m., we will be back. We're actually working on a new studio that should be done before the end of this year. So NNP will be in the studio. So all the people that want to come there and do their shows, we'll be able to, you can come in and share space with us. I am willing to do that. It's right off 3rd Avenue. So it's centralized in Birmingham. It's not too far from, matter of fact, everybody on this post, I believe we're maybe 10 minutes max from it. So I'm looking forward to that. NNP is growing. You'll see James Williams again. James and I are working it out. So we're working on this space. Once this space is up, you're going to see the voice and the visionary back together working. Tanya, if you need a place for the Alabama Democrat women to do shows and podcasts, it is yours. We're about to do this thing. One thing I never forgot, not necessarily political, was created to engage the people, control our narrative, and empower the people. Black media is still as important as it was when Martin Luther King walked the streets. Black media is important, and I'll never forget that part. So I'm not looking. I'm not running for office ever again. I don't see nothing that I can run for. So I'm not. I'm probably not even helping. I'm gonna vote. I may donate to certain candidates. I may even walk a couple of doors, but that's it. I'm not doing a lot more. I'm not giving all my time away anymore. There was time where I didn't spend any time at home. I was always gone for my boys, and I got 4 kids, and I'm not spending no more time with my family, my wife. I'm not spending no. So I appreciate y'all coming on. Keith, you had great information. Saturday, 2:30 on Zoom. Keith O. Williams would be doing Voter 101. You need to hear it. Check it out. Tanya Millhouse, Alabama Democratic Women. Hopefully she'll be back to teach us about it. Lonnie Malone will be doing Rise Up, the first Black males group about political voter apathy in Birmingham and beyond. If you want to join us, Lonnie F. Malone at gmail.com. Send an email saying you would like to be a part of it. If you'd like to be a part of the strategy team, it's not about me. If you want to be a strategy, if you're good at strategy, if you're good at setting things up, men or women, please feel free to reach out to us. It's not a men versus women thing. It really is getting men involved, because Tanya is president of the Alabama Democratic Women. It's not people, it's women. There's a place for everybody. So if you're part and want to help us out, Lonnie F. Malone at gmail.com. I would love for your help in strategizing. I'm talking all the way down to the logo and the colors. This is how serious I am about it. We're going to be professional. We're going to have meetings. We need a president. We need a vice president. We need a treasurer. We need a secretary. We need all of that. If you want to be part of that, I am not the president, nor will I be the president. My job is just getting it out there. I need somebody who really loves politics and can help us out, because we're talking about Birmingham has 200-some thousand plus people, and Birmingham averages about 30,000 voters, maybe 40, 35%, 30%. You see how if that is not apathy or disdain or whatever, it is. So not necessarily political, across the social media platform. We are back. I know we keep saying that, but we will be back every Sunday. So if you got something that you want to be put out there, let us know. We will be doing everything we can to grow this group. Tanya, you got anything you want to say before we go?
No, come visit the Alabama Democratic website. We're going to have a lot of workshops come up as well. We got several committees that we want you to join. SAL, Federation of DemWomen.com, or you can just go to our you can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram page, our Twitter page, and it'll click onto the website. And so we'll have several trainings coming up in 2023.
Keith O. Williams.
And don't forget, next Saturday at 2:30 p.m., we will be doing the first of series of Voting 101 discussions. There's going to be a lot of serious topics that are going to be discussed all the way into 2023. So you do not want to miss this informative session. That's again next Saturday, December 17th at 2:30 p.m. And the link for Zoom will be posted on my personal Facebook page. And for more information, you can go to the Facebook page for the Australia Broadcast Section, or OBS, at facebook.com/Austerlid, that's OSTERLID broadcast section. That's the name of the book page. We will be streaming on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you want to be a part of the panel, please reach out to me on my messenger on Facebook, or you can email me. That's keith.o.williams2@gmail.com. We love to have you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Sunday.